everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk About the POTS Life, your go-to podcast for all things POTS. Whether you're living with POTS or supporting someone who is, this is the place for you.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About the POTS Life. Today we have a guest on with us, Ashley Schuetz.
Yes, we are so excited because this is not only a personal connection for me, but I think it'll just help give a greater understanding, and it fits exactly with what we're doing here in the POTS Life. She'll tell you all about her background, but she brings like a whole mental health aspect, but her background, and we'll go into it, nursing and all the things that she has. So I feel like her perspective today is just so wide, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you, ladies. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Do you want to start, kind of tell us how you got into the medical background and where that led you, and even how it got to where you are today, and then we'll dive in all things chronic illness and how that relates.
Yeah, sure. So I initially never thought that I was going to get in the medical field. I started off as a cosmetologist, and I really enjoyed it, but the aspect that I enjoyed the most seemed to be taking care of my clients. And I wanted to further my career, and I just kept coming back to nursing. So in 2005, 2006, that time frame, I entered nursing school. I went to Shayside School of Nursing. I got my diploma there. And then I was working at Shayside Hospital for 2 years on a pulmonary med-surg floor. I dealt a lot with cystic fibrosis in some young patients. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to then further my career. I got my bachelor's, was in the GI lab for a little bit, and then went back for my family nurse practitioner degree. And when I went into the clinicals for my family nurse practitioner degree, one of them was in the school setting, and it was the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I absolutely loved it. I fell in love. I enjoyed the children, the interactions, caring for them, just the whole thing I loved. When I got out from family nurse practitioner school, I joined the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I've actually been there for a little over a decade now. Right around the time, I would say, when COVID started hitting, that I noticed a lot of students and their families were struggling with mental health. It was so hard for them to find a provider. It was taking 6-9 months plus to get any type of relief. And I'd always had this interest in mental health, but that just really sparked my journey into going back to school and getting my degree as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And I graduated from Wilkes University in 2024 with that degree. So I'm dual certified and have now joined a physician that has started 2 practices, Rittenhouse and Fine Tune. And I couldn't be happier.
It's crazy because you're so right. One, just in the setting that you were in, you just weren't seeing small things, right? You had to get to the bottom of all sorts of different diagnoses. And sometimes or a lot of time, I think you were the first line and sometimes the only people they told this issue to.
Yes, absolutely. And I always had an open door policy. I tried my very best to make everyone feel welcome. Of course, they could tell me anything as long as they weren't hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. I kept everything confidential, and I just started to see that need and thought that hopefully I could help them. And I was seeing more and more of it. Mm-hmm.
Geez, and it's crazy. Were you seeing, this is a guess, but, a lot of, especially that time in the world, higher anxiety. And I just think sometimes misdiagnosis from a chronic illness standpoint. Kids are dealing with so many symptoms, but there's also these underlying medical things also going on that they maybe don't even know about.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very gray area. Sometimes what a child or a student is expressing, it might really seem like anxiety, but here it stems from something else medically, like you mentioned. Is it maybe ADHD? Is it depression? Is it something else physical that then that's the only way that they know how to show and express their feelings? Is it something that's going on in the household? You know, everybody expresses their feelings a different way, whether sometimes some people like to avoid and suppress, and others like to act out. And
Right.
so a lot of times we don't know the root cause of a lot of these problems.
And I feel like it, as a kid too, whatever you're saying is going on with you might actually be how you're explaining it, but it could actually be different than what's going on in your body. Or it also could be, if you don't tell an adult that is going to believe you, you know, you're not going to get any help at the end of the day either.
Sure. And a lot of students, children, their symptoms are brushed off. And, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm one that has never done that, you know, when your kid comes to you and says something. But after a while, you really start to listen. And like you said, they are telling you a story. It's just in their narrative.
Yes.
And sometimes, and you just have to kind of peel back those layers of the onion to really figure out what's going on.
I just had a mom send me a message on social media, and honestly, I was thinking maybe, this will be a future podcast, but I feel like it fits us so well. She said, what would you tell a parent that, like, she felt the guilt that she dismissed these symptoms that her daughter was feeling? Because here's what happens with any chronic illness, especially POTS, they look okay. Or what you see is this young child who is most times very active, and then all of a sudden something changes. So then they're told, well, the school says, well, she just doesn't want to come to school. Or, you know, her belly really hurt every day?
Right.
Or how can she have migraines? Or she's lazy, you know? And I think because being a parent myself, it's hard in the medical field. Like, you're trying to distinguish, like, okay, could this be true? But we took them to the doctors, and these poor parents are taking to physicians. But she said to me, what would you tell a parent that has a child that is having these feelings? Like, you know, maybe, I don't know, I guess so. Like, when a child would come to you, and then what's the next step? You reach out to the parents, or how do you, I guess, validate the child's feelings and try to help them get help to that next step?
So I think first, I like how you said validate, because that is, I believe, the most important step, is saying, okay, I believe you. I understand you. Sometimes you just need to monitor. You need to have these journals, write down symptoms. When are they happening? You know, and for that parent that is asking you this question, it's so hard as a parent, and we all have that guilt, that mom guilt, dad guilt. But on average, it takes, this is average, 7 providers to then diagnose POTS. 7.
Yeah, right.
And it's not, and sometimes that's also in the mental health field as well.
Yep.
So it takes time. And usually, you know, things like a broken bone, you can have an x-ray and you can
black
see
or
that.
white.
And it's black or white. It's so much easier to see. But when you're having symptoms of POTS and mental health and, you know, anxiety, depression, all these things, first of all, you can have 2 separate symptoms that everybody else is having. So it takes a while to evolve and get to the bottom of it. I feel like as long as you are a parent that is supportive, or an educator, whoever, that you are supportive, and as you said, validate their feelings, you are doing the best that you can, and just keep being an advocate, and just keep being an advocate for your child.
I feel like I say it all the time, like I don't know, you just got to trust your gut. If something feels off, right? It's just something doesn't sit just right. And I rather am with my own children, exhaust all options, and if they're still saying to you something isn't right. I mean, I see it in here all the time. These younger, I have as young as 10 in here, and her mom, I say all the time, I mean, I give her so much credit because she validates, she stands up for her, but the parent aspect comes in, drawing that fine line of like, okay, how do I help pull her out of this? I'm not sure, you're right. Like there's no perfect answer because it's just hard in any person, but especially I think when it comes to dealing with POTS in a child.
Yes, absolutely. And like you mentioned, it's hard. It's hard just being a parent and then seeing your child go through this. And then you worry, is this something minor? Is this something major? It's a lot. Yeah. So it's understandable.
And like you said, it takes maybe 7 providers on average to get a diagnosis. So as a parent who's trying to advocate for your child, you're constantly having to do that again and again and explain it over again. You might yourself start to think, am I crazy? Like, what is happening?
You probably gaslight yourself, right?
Right. And frustration. I mean, how frustrated is the parent that they're going home and reliving this day and night, and when we as providers are only seeing this very small 30, 60 minutes of it, and I'm seeing them typically once a month, and they're giving me this recap in this small time frame, and I'm trying to help them, but it's so much easier said than done when you're living it.
I had a mom just come in this week with her daughter who's in high school, but she went to a physician and they said, you would get more out of these appointments if you just stopped asking questions. And I know the parent, like they are understanding and patient, and the questions were just coming from like trying to gain a better understanding. And her mom was like, what do you mean? They just asked like, hey, GI has this opinion. What do you think, to see if we can link it all? And she said, if you would just stop asking questions, you'd get further with the medical community. We don't want questioned. And I'm like, and then I said to her, I'm like, you're doing the right thing. Yeah. You're doing the right thing. You're standing up for your daughter. And it is so hard to know. It's hard enough to know in your own body, but even harder when you're trying to help
and
another body.
What's happening in someone else's. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I try to remember at the end of every appointment to ask about, is there anything else that I can address? Do you have any questions? Because ultimately, I feel like when my patients are educated and feel empowered, we can collaborate, we can make those decisions, and kind of shame on that provider for saying that, because
can you believe that?
That is the way too. I mean, really, it would benefit the provider that if their patient knows this, then maybe their patient wouldn't have to come back as much or call or ask, or because they're just trying, like you said, to get all this information, make the most appropriate, informed decision, because that's all that we can do. And that's what medicine is. And we've learned so many things, especially over these past decades, but we are trying to take in all this knowledge to do the best informed decision, because nothing is perfect.
And
so I would keep asking questions.
Yeah, I'd say they would welcome questions. There's so much information out there, so much information you could read about one symptom and go down a rabbit hole and think you have this terrible thing. So you would think that a physician would welcome questions like, oh, I read this. Does this make any sense? Or I heard this from another healthcare professional. Can we talk it through? Like you said, the more that you leave an appointment feeling like I was heard, I feel validated, I have a next step. That's just going to go leaps and bounds for your patients to keep coming back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you, as the provider, want to see their progress. I mean, that's the end goal, you want to see, that's the end goal, that, as a provider, especially as I talk for myself, I am here because I want to help. I want to. Now, is there always a cure? No.
Right.
But I am trying to have my students and their families live the best possible lives that they can and give them the tools to do that, whether that is with psychotherapy, also medication management. But they're coming to me. They're looking at me for this information, for this guidance to provide to them to live their best life.
Right. Because they, we all reach that point. I just had my last patient was an eval, and I said, we all hit rock bottom, right? So when you're looking at these providers, like, please help me, especially through a child's eyes, I think they just get, if they hear or they're dismissed or they hear negative things, that is just going to add to already how they're feeling. And I have that 10-year-old in office, and I think it's helpful to hear because, I'm trying things in office, and like I said, her mom is awesome and she really hears her, but also helps pull her out. But I feel like even myself as a provider, I could learn what is a good tool. So whether you're a provider, you're a parent of a child that has chronic illness, specifically it all fits into there. I just feel like they reached that point where she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. She said, I don't even care if I get better. And I'm like, no. My mom heart's like, no.
Yeah.
So what is a good first step if whether I'm the provider, you have a child like that, like where do you start when they have hit rock bottom? What is one small thing that we can start to show them hope?
Well, I think a lot of times that there's the community groups and doing podcasts and things like this, POTS Life, when you feel like you're not the only person. I really think the support is the first step after the validation that you're having these symptoms, you're having these feelings, that you're not alone, and that you're going to work towards a goal. And I think that's the hope, and it's through online forums, podcasts, if it's through community, church groups, anything like that, you have to have that support.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. She's into this specific type of sport, and it gives her, I can see her light up with it, trying to keep normalcy, even if the rest is kind of falling apart, and find hope in those ways and just like little things. Because it breaks your heart that they're so, one, misdiagnosed, their symptoms aren't getting validated. They're just, in this slippery slope.
Yeah. And, you are not in somebody else's body. You don't know how they feel. And they're, like you said, they're coming to you for guidance. And that's where we have to be empathetic and try our best to listen and be non-judgmental. And again, we're also not going to be perfect, but we have to do what's in their best interest. And even if it's just small little steps and encouragement, what if they're not hearing this encouragement at home? Or what if they're not hearing this at school? Or, we should be that, at least a small light for them, to know that there is hope and that they can rely on us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said about finding community, because you might be first one in your family to go through this, or none of your friends understand what you're going through. And so finding someone that can support you, commiserate with you, really just helps you feel like you're not isolated, you're not alone in this. And then, finding people that you can share that with.
Sometimes a school counselor is really good for that too. We have some amazing school counselors that I collaborate a lot with because they have the resources, or they just know about the community and how to, they're really good at navigating and finding all that information.
You talked a little bit about what you saw kind of right after COVID, or when COVID was happening, and, saw the need there and went back to get more. What are you seeing today?
I am seeing a lot of social anxiety.
Oh,
I didn't believe that for sure.
an uptick in OCD, which is another form of anxiety. And I see exponentially more ADHD diagnosis.
It is crazy because, and I haven't read, but I've heard from patients coming in here, there's, maybe it's a new study, I'm not even sure, but the link between ADHD and POTS is also growing, which I didn't know. But then I think to myself, how much, when you look at this big picture, or even OCD, all the things you mentioned, it's that urge to control, right?
Something.
But something. And if POTS is causing your body to fall apart, and it does hit a lot of type A personalities. So if you're striving for control and because something else is falling apart, it's just, nothing would surprise me anymore.
Yeah. I have a lot of students who are striving for perfectionism, and then that definitely causes a lot of their anxiety. And if they truly are having ADHD symptoms and having forgetfulness and disorganization, and they cannot focus, and it's really disruptive to their life if they are trying their very best to be as perfect as they can.
I see that even with the younger ones that come in and maybe they were given, not that it's a misdiagnosis, but kind of diagnosed there first. And then after that, misdiagnosed, like, oh, well, that's just ADHD. And they're like, no, wait, I feel something different, So yeah, you're seeing like such an uptick in this. So it makes you think like, okay, we definitely need to be aware of what else might come with this.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that we are becoming more aware of OCD and ADHD. And one of the good things about that is their symptoms are overlapping quite a bit. And it is really hard to decipher sometimes what they are. But with the different medication options available and psychotherapy, but focusing a little bit more on the pharmacological side of that, there's medication and classes that treat a lot of those symptoms. So that is nice. And I do like to tell patients, which I had learned from my preceptor, that we treat the symptoms. We don't treat a diagnosis because everybody can be different. Everybody can have different symptoms, as you see with POTS. So we really try to focus on the symptom control over the label.
Yeah, because it's so disruptive to their life, right? And
so disruptive.
ADHD, OCD, any diagnosis, right? How it affects one, yes. If all three of us have the same diagnosis, yeah, we may overlap, but we'll also, I'm sure, have
so many differences as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's very hard.
And it's so hard on the parents and the siblings and the educators. And especially when they're seeing this shift of how the student was before, and then whether it's, a lot of times it's blamed on hormones, and that can definitely be, right? And that can definitely be a portion of it. But that's not always the case. And it can, like you said, it can affect everybody in their life. And when the person that is experiencing these symptoms actually starts to feel better, everybody starts to feel better. Everybody starts to have that
to
sense
take that
of
breath.
Yeah. Yes.
It's, I said it right before we started this with my new patient. I said, you honestly won't realize how bad you felt for so long until you start to feel better. And a lot of times people say, well, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what better is. And then I'm like, no, until you feel it, it's weird. It's almost like an out-of-body experience that you suffered this way so long, and now you see that improvement, and you're like, how did I live like that? It's like that for everybody, whether you're, like you said, all the people that surround you or the support system around you, that, when you really do start to feel better. And that's why I think, and I said it to somebody, I actually had 2 mental health therapists in here today, but I say to people, if you don't have a psychiatrist or a mental health therapist starting, it's a very good idea to get one. And if people listening, if you're lost and you don't know where to turn, I think that is a huge first step, because even going through therapy myself, offloading some of those burdens or talking about some of those burdens to a neutral party who is listening and receptive and will not dismiss you. I think that can help. It's so intertwined. Your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, those all need to be at a good spot to see improvements.
Yes, absolutely. You can't have one without the other. You can't have mental stability without physical and vice versa. And you're absolutely right. I'm hoping that a lot of the stigma around mental health is diminishing. I don't know if it'll ever go away, but if you are ever feeling that you need to talk to somebody, it is good to know of whether it's a therapist. So there's therapists, there's counselors, there's social work, there's psych NPs like myself, there's psychiatrists, there's psychologists. So there are a broad amount of that you're able to talk to. So I also think that you should at least set up an appointment so that way you can, even if ever needed in the future,
correct,
you can establish that relationship and not have to wait 6 or 9 months sometimes when there's some urgent crisis or, so yes.
There's always something to talk about.
Always. I just think life in general, right? No matter what age you are.
Yeah, 100%. It's messy.
Yes.
Life is messy.
And I work very closely with a lot of therapists. And then when I see the families and I do mostly of the medication management, I hear such wonderful things about therapy. Oh, my son, my daughter, they are just, when they leave, they come out smiling, or, they just feel so much better. And that lasts sometimes for days. Like they are just riding this high that, like you said, they offloaded onto somebody else who is neutral, not judgmental, and they just felt heard. And it can really do wonders.
I also think like your piece too that you bring to the table, and I feel like this should just be a blanket statement. I have a lot of people say to me, well, do you think it's bad that I have to take medication? And here's my thing. No, I don't. We want the best version of you. So whether it's a child, whether it doesn't, an adult, I don't care where you are on the spectrum. If it makes you feel the best version of you, it's okay. I think you're right. Like how you said, I hope the stigma of mental health diminishes. I hope therapy isn't, a stigma anymore. Yeah. But also then that piece of medication, I think that's huge because, some people, it's just necessary.
It is. Yes. I mean, we are all wired differently. And if somebody has a heart condition,
correct,
that you have to take medication for, this is no different. And you just like physical therapy and conditioning your body for that physical, I call it illness or ailment, you are doing that mentally as well, engaging in psychotherapy and taking medication. And they work better together, just as with POTS. It works with
the whole piece,
intake of water and any medication and doing physical therapy and all of that. A little bit of either or may help, but to really get your best results, it's going to be the whole puzzle.
I love that. It's so true because we see it just from our side, but then adding in like Britt's the nutrition piece and the mental health piece, you really see the people that dive into all aspects yield the greatest result.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Same on my end.
Yeah, we just need that outlet. I think it's so helpful. And I say this often on the other podcast that when I sat down with therapy when I was first diagnosed, and she didn't say anything life-changing. She said, Kelsey, you have POTS. You're always going to have POTS. And I don't know what it was, but it was like the light bulb that like, yes, Kelsey, stop trying to control everything. You're going to weather the storm. And I just think having that neutral opinion versus your family always trying to convince you or convincing ourselves or, or hyping ourselves up about something, just having that extra outlet to make sure we are healthy on all aspects of ourselves, I think.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, a broken bone, it's black and white. You see it's broken. You know what to do to fix it. You know, you're in a cast, whatever the situation is. It's a lot different when it's not something that you can physically see. You can feel it on the inside, but it's not something that you can just put a Band-Aid on or easily fix. Those are the more complicated pieces where you need all the puzzle pieces, like you said.
Yes. And I also, that when you said that about the emotion and not being able to see. And I know I've been guilty too of even telling my child, okay, well, just suck it up or let's get it together. And then the next week I am upset about something. And then I start to feel like, oh, I just can't suck it up. I just can't get it together because it takes some time. I'm like, okay, so my expectations have to be a little bit lower and better, but yes.
I mean, I think we're all guilty of that. Sometimes I'm like, I can barely get it together. Yet I want them to have it together all the time.
What do you always say? Give yourself grace.
Yeah, give yourself grace. I need to speak that into my own family.
Yes. I'm gonna write that down too. Give myself some grace.
Yes, practice what you preach. That's what I need.
Yes,
that's my motto for 2026.
There you go. I like that. So if someone wanted to, you take clients outside of the Pittsburgh Public School system?
Well, yes, absolutely. I take patients. So I like to see mostly patients ages 4 and up, predominantly school age. So 4 all the way through college. I have a lot of college students. And I am currently with Rittenhouse Psychiatric Associates. And they are a pay-for-fee service. So they are all out of pocket. And I am actually transitioning over to Fine Tune Psychiatry, which is a new psychiatry practice, and they do accept major insurances. And on the website, there are the list of the insurances that are accepted in each state. So that is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. And some of them we're already credentialed with, some are still in the works. It has specific dates for some insurance companies, such as February 1st, we're accepting a couple of new ones. I do in person, I do remote and online. And again, I specialize in student mental health. I help patients and their families to come together with a plan to help with symptoms and school setting and 504 plans, IEPs. And that is where I shine with all the background in the school health system.
And it's so necessary. And I think it's such a great resource. I've already given her name multiple times to patients in my office because it is uncharted territory, right? Your child's diagnosed with something you just don't understand. I mean, even getting it as an adult, I don't understand at times. So really being able to work with somebody to advocate and get them on the right step. And I would say a lot of times in Ashley's field, those are the people that I think sometimes end up quarterbacking the care because you're really hearing and spending the time and, hey, this is what's going on. And then you're really able to point everybody in the right direction. So I think it is just such a necessary piece of the POTS treatment because, like we've already said multiple times, emotional, physical health, it is so important for everything to be functioning at the best way.
And I've actually seen an uptick so I maybe had heard of POTS once before you, Kelsey, of really bringing it to light. And I would say over the past 2 years, I've had personally 4 or 5 students become diagnosed with POTS. And it was usually middle to high school girls. And when I hear about that, I'm like, oh, wait, I know about that now.
Like, wait a minute.
I know. So it is. And I'm really glad that you both are bringing light to this medical condition because, like you said, people think that they're mentally not well or what's going on with me. But
there's so much
now there's
more.
a name to it.
Now there's a name. And even when I was diagnosed, they're like, you have POTS. I'm like, okay, great.
Even when he told me, I'm like,
what's that?
What is that?
Yeah, when I told her, she's like, what? Yeah. And now I feel like you're right. It affects all age groups. And yes, both male and female, but predominantly the ages you're seeing in a female population is where, even if it's not completely diagnosed, little pieces of the puzzle are already starting to form. Like, oh, well, that's just a little weird. Or, no, you shouldn't stand up and see black stars or whatever. So, I mean, it's really right in there. And it's good that more awareness is coming. And hopefully things like this bring even more awareness to it.
Agree. Totally agree.
So tell them where they can find you. Is it best to go to the website, or if they want to get in touch with you directly, what's the best way?
So the best way is to go through the website. It is Fine Tune Psychiatry, or it's finetunepsych.com. And under providers, you will find my name. There are 5 of us right now. And you'll have my name, my number, all the contact information, email, and a direct link to see how to schedule.
Oh, awesome. I love it. And we will share all those things in the show notes and on social media and all the things. And also, if you are listening and you are inside of our app, our list of recommended providers, Ashley's contact info, everything's also in there. So you're able to just kind of scroll over there and get a direct link to her too, if you're getting it that way. And if you're not in our program, we would love to have you.
Yeah.
And then you'll be easily able to access Ashley's info.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, Ashley. I'm going to add a new question because we're in 2026.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh.
What would be some inspiration or an inspiring word or Kelsey's motto, give the grace. What would you like to share in 2026?
Oh, what would I like to share? My motto that I've had I guess this is not new, but it is on my signature, on my email, that health is wealth. And that's really
so good.
Just because it's the number one thing, right?
Yeah.
We can slightly buy wealth or health, I guess, with wealth. You know how that goes. but really without health, there is no wealth. There is no well-being. And so I've always used that. I still stand by it, and I will continue. And health is both mentally and physically. So so health is wealth.
Oh, that's so good.
Great.
It's true. I mean, it's 100% accurate. It sums up this podcast exactly, because it is. And if you don't have that health piece from all angles, it makes the day-to-day life very, very difficult.
So much harder if you don't have it. Well, I think you could keep recycling that. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm about to get that tattooed somewhere on me, because it's been with me for so long. And it is, I would say, the one thing that I stand by at all times, because our ultimate goal is to live a healthy life and a healthy, long, prosperous life. And so
it just puts things right into perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on that health piece myself at all times.
As we all are.
We all need to be.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Ashley, for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking with you.
It was nice to talk to you too, ladies. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to take Give Yourself Grace, Health is Wealth, right into 2026. So we hope you'll join us there, and we'll see you next time. Bye.